Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to call the meeting to order. The invocation this evening is going to be by Reverend Rob Holster, Hill Country Church. So if you'll come up for your invocation, y'all can remain seated or stand, whatever y'all feels appropriate. Boy, you brought the spirit in. Hey, thank you. This is the first time we've had a standing ovation, Rob. So you must be a powerful prayer person. Please.
Well, let's go to the Lord. Let's stand for the Lord. Heavenly Father, we thank you for everyone gathered here this evening. Thank you that you have brought everyone here safely tonight, and we lift those who couldn't make it. We thank you for our great town of Fredericksburg and the grace you have shown us in making us peaceful and prosperous. May we dedicate this meeting to you out of thanks for the goodness that you've shown in your word. In James, it says, if you need wisdom, ask our generous God, and he will give it to you. He will not rebuke you for asking. And so we ask you tonight for wisdom. Thank you that you know each of us by name, and we acknowledge that we are dependent on you. And so let us trust you. Let our trust be in you. We ask that your Holy Spirit would inspire our hearts this day. Come fill our lives with your love. Fill our conversations with your grace and truth. And fill this meeting with your presence. We ask this for your glory and praise. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. We'll remain standing for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Brian, would you change the flags? I guess it needs to be the other way around. Thank you. Okay, I have a couple of proclamations this evening. First one deals with Constitution Week. Proclamation. Whereas it is a privilege and the duty of American people to commemorate the 234th anniversary of the drafting of the Constitution of the United States of America with appropriate ceremonies and activities. And whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America, designating September 17th to 23rd as Constitution Week. Therefore, I, Charlie Keeney, Mayor of the City of Fredericksburg, Texas, in the state of Texas, by virtue of authority vested in me, I do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through the 23rd, 2021 as Constitutional Week. In the City of Fredericksburg, we urge all people to study the Constitution and reflect on the privilege of being an American with all the rights and responsibilities that the privileges involve. In witness hereof, I here do set my hand and cause the seal of the city to be affixed to the 20th day of September of the year of our Lord 2021. And we have two representatives to receive it. Or three, I'm sorry. Charlie, who are they? Yeah, introduce yourself, please.
Okay, I am Kitty Sue Quinn. I'm the regent of the Fredericksburg chapters of the Daughters of the American Revolution. I can also introduce Molly Long in the back, and she is a member as well, and Susan Crouch, who is going to be a member, but she is currently a member in the city of Houston, and she is here tonight to witness this proclamation as well. Anyone who thinks, ladies, if your ancestry goes back to the Revolutionary War period and you think you have a patriot in your ancestors, you are eligible to join the DAR, and we will help you with that. So if you think it, we can help you make it happen. Shelley may have patriots, and we're excited about the fact that she may be able to become a member of our group as well. So thank you for having us here, and if you need anything from us, please let us know.
Thank you, Kitty. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, our second proclamation. Our second proclamation is the Hill Country Night Sky Month. Let it be known that I proclaim the city of Fredericksburg, Texas, October 2021 shall be hereafter known as the Hill Country Night Sky Month in the city of Fredericksburg, Texas. That the city of Fredericksburg, Texas encourages citizens to enjoy the night sky and to participate in the city of Fredericksburg, Texas, and the Hill Country region's events and programs celebrating the night sky and promoting the ways that communities are working to preserve it. That the city of Fredericksburg, Texas encourages citizens to learn about light pollution and why it matters, night sky friendly lighting and lighting regulations, and to implement the practices of lighting improvements that will reduce light pollution, thereby preserving our night skies. The city secretary is hereby instructed to post this proclamation at the city of Fredericksburg, Texas City Hall, located at 126 West Main, Fredericksburg, Texas 78624, for public display, and to enter this document into permanent records of the city of Fredericksburg, Texas, signed by Charlie Keeney, Mayor. Is there someone to accept this? Okay, good. Very good. We'll move on. Let me give this to Shelly. Moving to item 5, employee recognitions. Kent?
Mayor and city council members, I only have one recognition this evening. As you know, we had a large crowd last Monday night over at the University Center for the council work session on short-term rentals. And following that meeting, I received several positive comments about Jason Lutz and his presentation that evening. The comments were that he presented it in a very, in a way that the public could understand, and he facilitated his the questions very well. And so I did want to recognize Jason for doing a great job last Monday night. So I think you, yeah, go ahead.
Good job.
That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Kent. Okay, we have a number of people who have signed up for public comments. We also had one written letter that we received at a little after 3:30 this afternoon. You will have 3 minutes to speak. You will get a 1-minute warning sound. And then when your time is up, you'll get the same sound to let you know your time has expired. We have quite a number here, so we'll start off with Jeffrey Moore. When y'all come to the podium, if you'll, for the record, your name and if you're a city resident, and then Walter Mollenhauer, you're on deck.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm Jeffrey Morin, city resident, and I'd like to talk about Ordinance 9B, on 9B. Before considering the approval of Ordinance 2021-19, amending the Chapter 2, Administration of the Code of Ordinances, we would like to request to insert a citizen appeals process that after the violation and prior to municipal court, that an appeals process of some sort be included in this ordinance. And Daniel, if that's possible, we'd like to, well, I guess it'd be whatever's necessary. We'd like to have that included if that's possible. And that's all I have to say.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. Okay. Walter Mollenhauer and Tom Marshall, you're on deck.
Honorable Mayor, City Council, and staff, my name is Walter Mollenhauer. I live in the city. I have the following statements, speaking as a concerned citizen and president of Fort Martin Scott Friends. First, as a concerned citizen, 2 of my friends have expressed to me that they will never invest in our city because of difficulties they have encountered. Second, as president of Fort Martin Scott Friends, I'm having a difficult time leading the Friends in a positive direction because of how the agreement between the city and the Rangers was reached and approved in City Council meeting held September 7, 2021. However, as requested, I will meet with the Rangers soon to discuss the request from Dr. Jody Gwynn to start discussions as directed by Council. However, if you don't know, you need to know the following. As president of the Fort Martin Scott Friends, in response to the approval of the agreement with the former Texas Rangers, I have the following to say. When asked by council, Dr. Jody Gwynn said that the request from the Friends group is a new ask that just came up today, referring to the Friends' request to remain in their buildings. I now read the meeting notes of a meeting held June 8, 2021, in which the executive board met with Jody Gwynn to discuss how the two would work together in the future. As Friends' use of the Friends' buildings, it is the Friends' desire to continue the use of the buildings through a lease agreement with the city and share office space with the Rangers if they so desire. The library and other items owned by the Friends would remain property of the Friends, computers, items in the safe, etc. Noted is that the Friends currently pay for insurance maintenance of the building and security system. The reason for the above is the Friends need a place to conduct their business and a place for the library and items in the safe, as well as the Wagon Barn Pavilion as a place to conduct events. Dr. Jin noted that what belongs to the Friends would remain property of the Friends or could be negotiated. Example, the library. He also noted that nothing is set until they have approval of the Rangers Board and approval from the city. So I ask you, was the Friends' request for continued use of their buildings a new ask to Dr. Jody Gwynn? A copy of these meeting notes and an email to city staff is being handed to each of you. If you wish to discuss any of these, please email me or call me, and my email address and phone number is there on the paper. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Thank you, Walter. Tom Marshall, and then we'll have Mary Lee Marshall on deck.
My name is Tom Marshall, and I'm a city resident. First thing I'd like to do is encourage you to raise the tax rate, raise our property taxes, whatever you seem appropriate. Go as far as the law allows, if possible. The reason I'm asking that is because I can no longer say that the city council has never done anything that I asked for. It's just that simple. Now, on a Constitution, this is Constitution Week. Great. You encourage us to read it. If you haven't guessed, a lot of us have been reading it for some time now. One problem I've had, though, I have not been able to find anywhere in the Constitution where it allows for the Supreme Court to change laws. I read something about separation of powers, where each of the three branches have their delegated duties, but I do not see where the judicial branch can change laws. Maybe you're reading a different Constitution. If whoever is reading that Constitution that says that could send me a copy, I'd appreciate it, because I'm really interested where this comes from. Also, reading the Constitution and following the Constitution, as y'all have sworn to do, are two different things. I'm hoping that you would sit down and read it and understand why some of these people are upset about the Constitution that has not been followed over the past year. In particularly, declaring some businesses as essential, closing churches, telling people to stay 6 feet apart. As recommendations, yes, but to mandate that be done, not constitutional at all. And I hope you can get into it, read it, study it, and put something into action. The proclamation that we proposed was the citizens' understanding of what the Constitution means to us. If you can put something like that into your own words so that our businesses know that they're going to be in business for perpetuity, that would be great. We don't need our words. The citizens want some kind of word from you that their rights will be upheld. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Mary Lee Marshall and Jerry McCorkle, you're on deck.
Okay, I am Mary Lee Marshall. I live in the city. This is your sign. Okay, everybody read it. In the past, the city government has been worse than a kid in a toy store. Don't you think it's time you grew up? People out here in the real world who live on the money in their bank accounts understand that when their income is reduced, they have to adjust their spending. You, on the other hand, think you can still buy all the toys you want and all those things in other cities that other cities have too, because it's called keeping up with the Joneses. They have it, so we have to have it. Well, if you don't have it in the budget, no matter. Just go to the money tree and take it. Well, the money tree is looking a little peaked now. If our taxes go up, our prices go up, which by the way raises your sales tax revenue. So that's double whammy for you. We also have to raise the rent we charge for our garage apartment. Our renter lives on a fixed income. She doesn't get a raise. We don't either, by the way. We raise our prices. It's only because you raise the taxes. We don't get raises. Suppose the city tries living on a fixed income.
Thank you, Mary. And Deborah Hallbecker, you're on deck after Mr. McCorkle.
My name is Jerry McCorkle, and I do live in the city, and I thank you, the mayor, and your councilman for allowing me to speak. I wanted to cover two subjects. One, of course, is the taxes, which have already been spoken to, but I spoke to a young lady today who owns a business here in town, and she says if they raise her rent anymore, she's going to have to close her business and leave because she can't afford to live here and have a business here. And the other thing I want to address is our budget. I printed this off on my computer the other day, and I see the budgeted revenues at the bottom, and then I see the expenditures, and then I see over here in the parentheses the overage of 13,010,477 or whatever it is. What this shows to me is we're lacking adequate leadership in our city government, that our budgets are not being at all addressed as what we really need or what we just want to spend money on. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. Deborah and then Angela Perch, you're on deck.
Good evening, council members. My name is Deborah Habecker, and I live in the city. First of all, I wanted to thank you for serving. It's not easy, and it is impossible to please everyone. But the most important point of your serving and the reason you were elected was the electorate felt you trustworthy to spend their money wisely and to do the right thing. Our city, state, and nation are in a critical state of affairs, and who knows who will be alive in the next 2 or 3 years because of these shots. Thousands of illegals are breaking our laws because dishonest politicians have allowed it. They are flooding our state. Del Rio is only 173 miles from Fredericksburg. Who are these people? Will we see the effect of this uncontrolled invasion on our city? Now is not the time for large capital expenditures or investments. Our city needs a reprieve, and property owners, businesses, medical, law enforcement, just to name a few, have had a tough 2 years. We have renters, and it is all they can do to make their below market rent timely. Most have 2 or 3 jobs. Our daughter is no exception. She works 3 part-time jobs and 1 full-time job to pay her rent to us. We are trying to keep rent stable, unlike STRs, but as property taxes increase, eventually rent will be increased. At this point, we and many other landlords are subsidizing the city workforce. The city and county governments talk about the issue of no affordable housing. Yes, as property taxes increase, a direct correlation exists and renters will not be able to even afford rent. A no new revenue tax policy must be adopted and the city budget reduced by 5% across the board for every department. Kelly in the health department has set a good example. Thank you.
Thank you. Angela? There you are. Then Eric Emerson, you're on deck.
Good evening, council. My name is Angela. I live just outside the city, about 10 minutes from here. I'm wanting to be more of an informant this evening and represent all of the Fredericksburg citizens that I asked them a question. I asked them if they were going to be here this evening. The common response and answer that I received was, and I'm not making this up, this city council is a lost cause and they are running this city into the ground. I didn't take time to ask them what they meant, get their perspective, but you all have an opportunity to help Fredericksburg be one of the best cities in the country to live and work. Or you have the opportunity to continue giving citizens reasons to be saying what was said to me. I don't know if you all have a capable consultant who can give counsel to this whole raising the tax thing, of raising taxes as proposed. This raising taxes seems to be behavior of a Marxist mentality and not that of making Fredericksburg a great city to live and to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Eric? And then James McDonald, you're on deck.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thanks for the opportunity. My name is Eric Hammerson. I live in the city. From time to time, the council has to make really difficult decisions. And one of the ones that's coming up is going to be on the STRs. And it's a difficult decision because a significant number of your constituents speak eloquently on both sides of the question and make really good arguments. Tonight's not one of those nights. You've received a budget from the city as they're supposed to provide, which is 100% more than what it was 10 years ago, even though the city hasn't grown that much in that period of time. If you don't accept that budget, it's not that the city stops working. The charter says specifically the existing budget goes into effect from month to month until they present you a budget you can accept. Every one of the citizens who has spoken, with the exception of Tom this evening, has said one thing: don't raise taxes. My proposal is that you not accept the budget, that you tell the city to go back and request a 5% reduction. How they reduce it by 5% is up to them. And that you approve not the no new revenue tax rate, but a tax rate that's 5% below that, which, in case you haven't figured it out, is 0.186032 cents per $100. And tell the city that's what they have to live on. I mean, that's the reality of life. So thank you very much for your time. this is not a hard decision. When 100% of your constituents, except Tom, are saying that they want taxes reduced. Good evening.
Thank you, Eric. Kimberly Lambs, you're on deck.
My name's James McDonald. I am a citizen of the city of Fredericksburg. I mentioned a couple of the comments that I'm going to make tonight, the other night at the very small firehouse training room. Fredericksburg has experienced a 107% increase in taxes in the past 10 years. The city has only grown 9%. Let's keep in mind the federal budget has only grown 90%. Another interesting piece of data is that housing prices have increased 83% in the city of Fredericksburg. Are you noticing a correlation? With all the talk about affordable housing, heck, we've even hired a new position to do that. I suspect the very first thing that she's going to say is not reduce taxes. But that's what they should say. Another government position cannot solve this problem. You five can solve this problem. There are a number of people that I talk to that feel the same way that I do, but they don't want to get up here. I understand that. People are uncomfortable about public speaking. I certainly don't want to disrupt the meeting, but I've got 1 minute and 30 left. What I would ask, be kind. I'm speaking to the people behind me now. Stand up if you want a reduction in property taxes, please. I'm asking tonight that you keep the budget the same as last year's amended budget. The tax rate is an absolute joke. Come election season, you guys will sit up there and say that you reduced the tax rate. I'm asking you not to spend another dollar more. That's what I'm asking. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Kimberly, you're up, and Jett Burns, you're on deck.
Camera. Hi, my name is Kimberly. I do live in town. May I pass a packet out first, please?
For us?
Sure.
Yeah, please. Stop the clock. Okay, start the clock.
Thank you. Okay, first, I would like to address that you guys are recognizing this week as a special Constitution Week. And it's really crazy to me that you're probably going to vote to raise taxes on all these people. That's your community, your friends, your family. It's just, you're just going to contribute to this never-ending cycle of problems, right? But what you just seem to lack the understanding of is that you are a servant of the people. The people do not want a tax increase. So your job is to tell whoever's telling you from high up with a suit and tie on, who's not elected, no, the people don't want it. I know there's one of you on this council right now that's been pretty consistent on staying with the people on this topic, and I'd like to thank you very much for that. And I would like to encourage the rest of you to follow that path. And with the rest of my time tonight, I would like to give my usual COVID update, a sane one, not the fear-mongering one we're about to get. First, I would like to point out that if you compare the Hill Country Memorial Hospital website, they've got a tab for COVID-19 info. It's got 3 tabs: updates, vaccine info, and visit policy. If you go to Fredericksburg, Texas government website and you click on their COVID-19 info, there are 12 tabs. 12 on the government page, who's supposedly staying out of our health. Interesting. But there's still no VAERS update, of course, and there's no informed consent fact sheet. Isn't that convenient? You got to get rid of this stuff. You got to stop with the COVID thing. And by the way, I called Hill Country Memorial Hospital today, and I've recorded said conversation, and I asked them that if I go and get my second shot, and 5 days later, 10 days later, I have a heart issue and I come into the hospital, am I considered fully vaccinated? And my first answer that I got was no. I would not be considered fully vaccinated until after 14 days after my second shot. I'd like you guys to take your attention to the graph here, especially the one on the bottom. So these are the 1% of reported cases that make it to VAERS within, looks like 3 days. That's the amount of deaths. Most deaths are reported within 3 days of getting the second shot. So maybe the other 99% are being told that they're unvaccinated. Maybe that's where this pandemic of the unvaccinated is coming from. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kimberly. Heath Bell, you're on deck after Mr. Burns.
Hello, City Council. My name's Jett Burns. I live in the county. I'm with the Gillespie County Young Republicans as well. First off, I want to thank the Law Enforcement Center for having our City Council meetings here in this nice, large conference room. You don't always get this much space at some City Council meetings. I want to note that the meeting minutes for August 2nd and August 23rd do not specify if the public speakers were for or against certain topics, such as the property tax rate and COVID-19 restrictions. However, I do want to praise the detail in the July 19th minutes. Let's have tonight's minutes mirror that kind of format. If y'all could, I'd appreciate that. One more comment about procedures. Since when did we no longer allow comments on specific agenda items? I didn't, maybe I wasn't at that meeting, but wasn't really made a big deal, and I would have used that tonight to talk on the tax rate, and that would have given me more time. But I've got 3 minutes here, and now to the property tax rate. It's really simple, that discussion. You got new properties out of the tax roll this last year. Those are going to bring in over $150,000 in new revenues, and so by lowering the tax rate to the no new revenue, you wouldn't lose those new profits. You would keep those, and you would keep your citizens happy. By going with a no new revenue rate, you're not increasing our taxes. You're going to keep our taxes the same as last year. And better yet, if you lowered it, our taxes would go down. And that's what we're asking you to do. Everybody here tonight and at the public hearing last week and the last few months have asked you to keep the rate at the no new revenue and to not raise our taxes. It's going to hurt me, workers in the city. It's going to hurt young people trying to make a living here. You heard Deborah talk about her daughter. She's working 3 part-time. It's rough. And y'all aren't helping us out. Your budget is huge. You can cut out a little bit. We saw you do that this last year. You made it $63 million with COVID. COVID's still around, I guess, but you've raised it back up to $70 million. That's $7 million more in what? You could cut a little bit and keep us happy. Appreciate you listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Heath, and then Jeanette Hermuth, you're on deck.
Howdy, Council. I just wanted to say congratulations, Jerry and Kathy, for gaining your immunity back
Would you
since last
please
time.
state your name?
Howdy, I'm Heath Bell, and I live in here in the city. Good to see you again. So there's been a lot of discussion, actually, since last time amongst the good people of Fredericksburg regarding this entire issue, this entire process, more so than I remember for any other, event in my memory. Just the amount of activism has been incredible. It's been great to see. The consensus is confusion here amongst the people because despite, as the paper reported, a 100% disapproval rate to the new taxes, the council moves forward. So, as a lot of people's point has been, the council has yet to prove that these taxes are going to do anything. Actually, Mr. Mo Saidi, and I don't know if he's here or not, he provided a comprehensive report to you, and many people here have provided relevant information about that taxes don't need to go up for the new budget either. The contents of the budget, to speak more on that, are, in my opinion, mostly business as usual, but some things are just inflated massively as to what they can be. I think the average person could ask whether or not we need most of the things there. I'll say, frankly, thus, it's not moral to force the people of Fredericksburg to tighten their belts when the city has much more leeway to tighten theirs. So I'll say this to the council, and thank you for all the work you've done over the years, both, good and mediocre. Some council members have provided themselves, very well towards the people on this issue. You have, the council, this chance to prove not only your competence, your understanding of this city, and your good faith, frankly, towards the people. So I'll ask this to all of you: vote against higher taxes and for a no new revenue rate.
Thank you. Thank you. Jeanette, Tanya Benson, you're on deck.
I'm Jeanette. I live here in Fredericksburg. I just want to make a few comments. First of all, a few years ago, I came here as they were increasing taxes. Again, I talked to my neighbors. I told people to come down here. You got to go down to the hearing. You got to go down to the hearing. Everyone's against this. Everyone that I talked to, the common thing, like Angela was saying, what I heard was, what's the point? The city never listens. They're just going to go do what they want to do. The other comment that I got was that the city is not listening to the people. What the city's spending on is not where we want things to be. So I went in my neighborhood because nobody came down to the hearing. Usually there's 2 or 3 people at these hearings, okay? I've been coming here for 6 or 7 years. It's Mo and me and maybe 1 or 2 other people. Well, so a couple of years ago, I thought, okay, I can't get people to come down here. So I went in my neighborhood and I took petitions. And I came in with 40 petitions just in a few blocks of my house. And I knocked on the doors. I said, okay, so I know you're against property tax. If you want to sign this, I'll take it and speak on your behalf. And so every single person signed it. Every single person. But they're not coming down here because they think, like she said, people feel it's a hopeless cause. But I kept saying, no, you have to show up. So I brought these petitions. And, and of course, as usual, things continue every year. The taxes keep going up. So I want to encourage you all, because everyone pretty much said everything really well. You've been given all this incredible information the past few weeks, even before. For the past 2 months, people have been saying, lower, be conservative. So anyway, I would ask that not only that you keep the tax no higher than last year, the no new revenue tax that they say, but I say go below that. That is the most you can do. I say go below, and 5% is kind of peanuts. I would say go even more, but at least start there, So anyway, please, your job is to work on behalf of the people. You are your ears should be with us and direct the city from here to you to the city. The city can cut back. Every good parent knows there's needs and wants, and they don't give their children everything. They make them work for what they have. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeanette. Tanya, and then our last speaker is going to be Ilaroop. Isla, I almost got it. Thank you. Isla. Tanya?
Good evening. Thanks for letting us all speak tonight. My name is Tanya Benson. I've been here and voting as a voter for almost 20 years in Fredericksburg. And I want to start with reminding you something that the group here is not going to stop reminding you. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. First thing I would like to mention is this recent request for the resolution. And I understand that it is being denied to be put on the city council agenda using the excuse that the governor's 38th mandate somehow addresses that. I don't know why you would think King Abbott's mandate addresses that. He can change his mind tomorrow. He's already done 38 unconstitutional mandates, and the city of Fredericksburg followed suit with an unconstitutional mandate, which all city council members complied with, and by doing so violated their oaths to the office and separation of powers. So it is a lame excuse to use that. And what are you afraid of? It's not anything more than opening dialogue, opening the discussion. And one of the reasons is because we don't know where you stand on upholding our rights. To date, not one of you has really come out strongly to let us know how you stand on upholding our rights. I'd like to also comment on what Tom Marshall said about judicial powers. Recently, Councilman Sanford reminded or told one of the constituents that they were not exempt from mandates, that they could still be, or that not exempt, they were not free from mandates, citing the Jacobson versus Massachusetts 1905 case law. I'd like to underscore what Tom said. The judicial branch does not make law. That's case law, and it applies to the parties in that case, and it is not law. And that's another reason why we just don't know if y'all know what the oath is that you took means, because you keep doing things that let us know. And finally, I'd like to say again that I am not in favor of a tax increase. In fact, I'm in favor of lowering it. Everyone is still reeling from the unconstitutional closures from 2020, and we all need to recover, and that needs to be taken into consideration.
Tanya?
Yes.
Thank you. Your time is up.
Oh, it was. Okay, sorry.
I'm sorry. You may not heard that pleasant. That's okay. It's okay.
We do have some papers. I'm for this as well.
If you'll
That's
introduce
not what
yourself.
I came to speak
Yeah.
about.
If you'll introduce yourself, that would be great.
Yes, I've spoken once before. It was a few weeks ago. I wasn't able to make the last meeting. My name is Ilaroop, and I live in Fredericksburg. I've lived here for about 12 years. Some of you recall that I talked about law enforcement, and I'm going to talk about that again because I don't even know how to do it in 3 minutes, to be honest with you. But it seems like the work that I did in the 80s and 90s to protect women's rights has been summarily undone in this community. And I'm not sure why we're building a domestic violence shelter when the police officers aren't trained in how to deal with the crime. Now, I sought help for an abusive man, and I was told that I was the problem, and I was taken to jail, and I was beaten by an officer at the jail. Those are my injuries. Okay, so my feeling is, as I've already said before, that the law enforcement in this community is very unprofessional. Maybe not everybody. I'm sure there's some people who take their jobs very seriously. But there's also some people who behave pretty much like schoolyard bullies. And I am not the only woman who's been taken to jail in a nightgown. Okay, there was an 80-year-old woman named Diane Fortune who I have written a testimony from as well. And in 2015, the sheriff's department was sued by another woman, Susan Dantzler, for beating up her husband. And they won. And we, as taxpayers, guess who pays for it? Well, we do. We do. Okay, and we have an issue on taxes here, and there's going to be civil litigation again, because I'm sorry, but nobody is doing anything about this issue. And you know, I think it's just unbelievable to me that as a 55-year-old woman, retired, who wants to enjoy her organic gardenings and working with kids, that this would happen. Okay, it's just unbelievable and so disgusting. I've been sick to my stomach for 2 months. So I would really like to see something done about this. Like I said, the shelter is a joke if you don't train anybody in how to deal with this crime. That's it.
Thank you very much.
I do have some written testimony as well, if y'all want to pass it around.
Okay, that is all the folks that had signed up for public comments. So we'll move on now to item number 7, consent. The following items may be acted upon in a single motion. No separate discussion or action or any other of any of these items will be held unless pulled at the request of the member of the city council. A, consider the approval of the city council minutes. I, August the 16th, 2021, regular meeting. I, September the 7th, 2021, regular meeting. Is there anyone that wishes to pull any of these minutes? If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept.
Mayor, I make a motion to accept.
Second.
Motion by Tom and a second by Kathy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, now we're going to be going to a public hearing. Hold a public hearing to receive citizen comments for or against a request by Jacob Grant to consider a voluntary annexation and request for zoning for single-family residential small lot R1A for approximately 6.32 acres of land out of outlot 97, outlot 96, and unnumbered outlot and block B of the German Immigration Company located at 615 Post Oak Road. I'll entertain a motion to go from regular to public.
I move we go out of regular into public
I have a
hearing.
motion by Jerry and a second by Tom. All those in favor, say aye. Aye, motion carries. Is there anyone here who would like to speak to this item?
Mayor, I move that we go out of public hearing back into regular session.
I have a motion by Tom to go from public hearing back to regular. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Jerry. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. 9A, consider the approval of ordinance 2021-23, annexing approximately 6.320 acres of land out of outlot 97, outlot 96, and unnumbered outlot and block V as shown on the map of the Fredericksburg and environs of the German Immigration Company in Gillespie County, Texas, located along Post Oak Road to the north of the intersection of Post Oak Road and West Live Oak Road, extending the corporate limits of the city so as to include said territory, grant all inhabitants and future inhabitants of said territory all the rights and privileges of other citizens of the city, binding the inhabitants and future inhabitants of said territory by any and all acts, ordinances, resolutions, and regulations of said city, and amending the zoning ordinance of the city to establish zoning district of said territory as R1A, single-family residential, small lot. Jason?
Yes, Mayor, I think you covered most of that in your intro there. They are looking at annexing 6 acres into our city limit. A current future land use calls this area low-density residential. At this time, they're requesting the R1A zoning district, so this is a smaller lot zoning. It's consistent with the future land use plan, and staff recommends approval of the ordinance annexing and establishing the zoning for this property.
That property is adjacent to,
R1.
it's an R1.
It's adjacent to R1.
It
They're
is
gonna be
adjacent to R1?
Yes, sir.
Okay, now,
It
when
also
we-
has some C1 to the south. You can see here on this.
on there. Now, when you look at these R1A lots, do they bring down the prices of the home any at all, being a smaller lot?
I can't comment on the price per square foot. That generally doesn't change much, but the overall price on the home does come down. I mean, acreage itself is worth, has some value to it. So, in the standard R1 zoning district that you see, that's a minimum of 7,500 square feet. Generally, you see 10,000, 15, 20,000 square foot lots that are selling. In the R1A, those are 4,500 square foot lots. So there are some price changes there. I think construction costs are fairly similar per home, but you do get an economy of scale with R1A as you can get that higher density. So that gives you a lesser cost on your infrastructure cost as an overall percentage of the square or linear foot.
Jason, how many R1A subdivisions have we platted, and how many R1A houses have been built?
At least 1, 2, 3, I think. And as far as homes are built, I know 1 is sold out. They're still constructing homes, but the lots have sold.
So basically, the only R1A subdivision that's building out right now is the beginning.
Yes, and so they are built out as far as lots. They're going to be wrapping up theirs.
And so the R1A platted lots, let's say on Homing Lane, we've got those lots. We've got R1A platted lots on Friendship Lane. Those are the two, I think, the two big subdivisions, but there hasn't been a lot of movement in smaller lot houses.
I think the ones on Friendship are pretty close to construction. My understanding is the R1As is they're selling off pretty quickly in the beginnings. Like I said, the lots have sold. They're just waiting for the developer to catch up.
Any other questions, council? Okay, there being none. With that being said, would someone like to make a motion on this matter?
Mayor, 320 acres of land out of Outlot 27, Outlot 96, Outlot 97, and unnumbered Outlot and Block V is shown in the map of the German Immigration Company.
Second.
A motion by Tom and a second by Bobby. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. B, consider 9B, consider the approval of ordinance 2021-19, amending the chapter 2 administration of the Code of Ordinances by adopting and adding an Article 7 administrative education of violations, providing for civil administrative hearing process for violations of.
As you mentioned, this is the second reading of ordinance 2021-19. This is to establish a civil administrative hearing process in the city to use for violations of city ordinances. At the last At the last meeting on this ordinance, there were 2 recommendations made by council, which I've incorporated into the second draft. Those can be seen on page 45 of the packet and page 48 of the packet. The first change was to include in the citation that's issued a specific citation or a specific site to the city ordinance code section that's alleged to be violated. And the second change was to move the effective date to January 1st, 2022. There were some comments made tonight about some additional requests for information or for appellate, I guess you'd call it appellate process to be amended to include some sort of citizen oversight. I haven't included anything other than what council asked me to put in there. But if council wants to discuss any of those additional options, we can certainly do that tonight.
Thank you, Daniel.
Mayor, I wanted to point out there is an appeal process in the proposed ordinance. It's on page 47 of your agenda packet. If an individual is unsatisfied with the ruling of the hearing officer, they can appeal to the municipal court judge. And the judge, one of the things that the judge can reverse the hearing officer's order on is when it's not supported by substantial evidence, and it lists other reasons for reversal of the hearing officer's order. So there is an appeal provision in there.
Thank you. Questions, Jerry?
No.
Bobby?
No questions.
Tom?
So Daniel, I've got a question. If an appeal goes from the administrative hearing officer to the municipal judge, does it then become a criminal matter? Or is that just an
No,
appeal?
it would remain a civil case.
Okay. And so the other thing is in the charge that goes to the administrative hearing officer. Let's say that I receive a citation for an overstuffed trash can. Okay. There was some mention made that my reception of a citation that my trash can was overstuffed is prima facie evidence of a violation. Is that in here?
It creates a rebuttable presumption, meaning if the officer issues a citation to someone, and I think there would be a burden on the officer to show that it was actually delivered, that they had notice of the violation, the alleged violator. But assuming that they can meet that burden, then delivery of the citation creates basically a rebuttable presumption that the offense occurred, which can then be overcome by evidence being presented by the alleged violator. So if they don't show at the hearing, it would essentially be a default of finding them guilty.
That would be a default no if they don't show up and defend them.
Assuming they had notice, assuming they actually had notice of the violation.
Okay, so I guess my question is if I'm accused of overfilling my trash can and I go to the administrative hearing, there's no presumption that I am actually guilty. The city is accusing me of overfilling the trash can. At that point, I'm able to offer rebuttal evidence. Maybe the trash can's not a good thing because I've seen lots of, it's kind of hard to hide an overfilled trash can. But say it's a watering violation and someone is watering their yard and they get turned in by a neighbor and it's not their day, and they show that it was, they weren't watering or something. If they have the right to present evidence to rebut the city's accusation.
That's correct, and the burden is still on the city to meet. It's a lower standard.
Lower standard.
It's a civil standard, which is more likely than not, as opposed to a criminal standard, which is beyond a reasonable doubt.
Okay, does that favor any party more than another? since it's an administrative hearing.
Well, it's more favorable for the city as opposed to proving a criminal case because the burden's much higher in the criminal case. So conceivably, it makes it a little bit easier, I guess you would say, for the city to meet their burden to carry the case.
Okay.
But evidence would still have to be presented, and the violator would have an opportunity to rebut that.
So we're still having, it's still a court, and people have the right to present evidence, defend themselves, and if they don't like the ruling, they can appeal. Is there any level of appeal if they don't like what the municipal court says?
It's not provided for in the statute or in our ordinance. Since this is a civil case, I guess maybe they could seek a judicial remedy.
Okay, and that would be county court?
Probably district court.
District court, because it's civil?
Right.
And does the county court at law only handle criminal cases?
No, but typically those types of what we'd call judicial review would be set in the district court. Right.
Okay, state district court.
Right.
Okay. All right.
216th district court.
216th, okay. Thank you.
Kathy, anything? No questions? Okay, I have none either, so. I'm sorry, with that being said, I would entertain a motion.
I'll move that we approve the administrative procedure as presented.
You have a motion by Kathy.
Second.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Jerry, I didn't hear that. Thank you, Jerry, second. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item 9C. Consider the approval of ordinance 21-20, adopting the city budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2021, and ending September 30th, 2022, and making appropriations for each department and account. First of two readings, since the city council may waive the second reading. Laura?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Following several City Council budget work sessions, the fiscal year 2022 budget is being presented for adoption. The 2022 budget includes changes that have been recommended by the City Council. It's recommended for adoption with possible revision for a change in the property tax revenues after the tax rate is approved. The attached summary of revenues and expenditures that are included in the proposed budget includes property tax revenues that are based on the current year's tax rate of 0.220775. If the council chooses to adopt a tax rate that is lower than that, we will need to revise the property tax revenues that are currently in the budget accordingly.
So Mayor and Council, I just wanted to maybe add, and Daniel, will certainly point this out. State law requires you to approve the budget before you approve the tax rate. So these are two important decisions before the council this evening.
Well, the motion is to approve this budget. We're not approving the tax rate. Okay.
No, sir.
Well, I wanted to be sure I understood that.
Mayor, I do want to add a few other legal procedural requirements. So it needs to be a record vote, a roll call vote. Additionally, if the proposed budget will raise more revenue from property taxes than in the previous year, the council will have to have a second motion and action to ratify the tax increase in the budget. So that's only applicable if the budget that's ultimately adopted will raise more in revenue from property taxes than the previous year. And you are correct that so you have to adopt the budget and the tax rate separately, even though they're sort of intertwined, but the budget goes first. And then, I guess that, so you're going to have to kind of make your decision.
Well, the first vote is just for the budget. It has nothing, no reflection on what the council might decide on the next agenda item.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. I just want to keep it.
But if the budget that's adopted will raise more revenue from property taxes than last year, you have to take your second vote After you approve your budget, you have to take a second action to what the statute calls ratify the tax increase.
Fund the budget.
Right.
Okay. I think I understand that now. Thank you. Tom?
I think it's time that we hear from the man who prepared the budget.
Okay. Mayor and Council, as Laura mentioned, we've gone through a number of work sessions over the last 3 months. I think counted it's 6 work sessions, including one with the county commissioners. We've had 2 public hearings on the budget. Throughout that process, we've made changes to the budget as directed by the city council. So the budget that's before you this evening, as Laura has mentioned in her staff report, is a little over $70 million. And one of the speakers brought up the point that the expenses exceed revenues. And one of the reasons for that is we still have a bond issue, a water bond issue that we're expending money out of that was issued several years ago. We also have impact fee revenues that we're using this year for water and sewer improvements. And we're also using, of course, the American Rescue Fund in the budget. So those are all adding to the budget for the proposed budget for next year. The budget does include increases in several different services. And incidentally, I will prepare an article for the newspaper this week that will share with the public more details on our budget. But one of the big changes for this year is the addition of another EMS crew and paramedics, basically 6 new EMT paramedics. And the reason for that is because of the large increase in EMS calls we've experienced over the last 5 years, particularly east of town. And of course, all the EMS services are shared, the costs are shared between the city and the county. But that's one of the large increases in expenses for next year. We also have, as mentioned in the paper recently, a lot of water and wastewater improvements planned for next year. And we've got some equipment purchases and just a variety of different items. These have all been discussed at prior work sessions and public hearings. And so the budget is before you tonight with only 2 changes that the council has discussed recently. One is the reduction of the TABC permit fee revenues. As you'll recall at our last meeting, we discussed that. We prepared a revised ordinance covering those fees. And so we have reduced those fees in the general fund for the budget that you have before you. We also have added, at the council's direction, we've added $80,000 in the tourism fund. This is, again, is not supported by property taxes. It's supported by hot revenues. And that is going to a design and feasibility study on our parking facility in the downtown area. And you'll have a contract for those services that will be before you at the next meeting. Those are the only changes that we've approved over the last couple of weeks. Again, most of the changes were made early in the budget process. And the budget, I will conclude by saying the budget addresses the council's priorities that you established back in May. Those include working on the beautification of our community, improving EMS services, providing more funding for parks and recreation, since we've cut that budget quite a bit over the last couple of years. But all of the council's priorities that you set back last May have been addressed in the proposed budget. So at this point, we'll be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
I guess this is a question to Laura and or Kent. One of the council priorities that was voted on earlier was a salary study for city employees and the belief that we needed to bring our employees up to a market rate. And we made the decision to include $250,000 in this year's budget, which I think is in this year's budget right now, for that market study. Am I correct in assuming that that $250,000 will not be enough to bring the city employees up to market?
That's correct, Councilman. We don't have the exact number on that at this time, but first off, we put all that, basically it was a placeholder in the budget, $250,000, because we don't have that information ready for the council to consider. All that money was placed in the general fund. So when the salary market adjustments are brought before you, hopefully in October, maybe November, then you will need to amend the budget for the enterprise funds. Those are the funds not supported by property tax revenues, because we have not included any of the salary study in the enterprise funds. General fund, it will likely require a budget adjustment in general fund, but at this point, we don't know exactly how much that's going to be, Councilman.
Okay, but the $250,000 that we included, would that be enough for strictly all the employees that are working in the general fund, which is pretty much the biggest departments that we have in the city?
At this point, according to Tammy, our HR director that's coordinating that study, she doesn't think that will be sufficient, because again, keep in mind that includes police and fire employees, street employees, parks employees, most of our employees, and she doesn't think that that will be sufficient. She doesn't think it'll be twice that much, but she doesn't think it will be, she doesn't think 250,000 will cover the general fund employees.
One last question is, if we adopt the current budget and we adopt a lower tax rate than the tax rate that was used to prepare the budget, which was 220,775, I believe. Will the difference in the tax rate that is adopted and the tax rate used in the preparation, the calculation of the budget, will that money come out of anticipated and city's anticipated general fund reserves?
It will come out all of the different funds if it's not adequate, yes, sir.
Okay, so depending upon what the tax rate is, we will reduce reserve. We will reduce reserve accounts.
That's correct. Yes, sir.
And you've made recommendations. The tax rate. I'll let any other councilman that wants to speak about this. Thank you.
Kathy?
I'm satisfied with the budget the way it is. I think there's going to be some shortfalls. It's a deficit budget, so we're going to have to consider some things later on. But I don't have any objection to approving it tonight.
Jerry?
Yeah, just the budget. I don't know. I think that the staff is very frugal on what they do here. I am Jerry Lookenbaugh. I am a resident of Fredericksburg, Texas. I live in Fredericksburg on 710 Cross Mountain Drive. Thank you. And I pay city taxes like everybody else up here does, pay county taxes. What we do is we look at everything and we try and keep it, I don't want to pay any more taxes than y'all do. And what we do, or what we look at doing it for the betterment of the city of Fredericksburg. There's a lot of these departments that, if they need to cut back, they will cut back. But if they, hey.
Listen, folks, listen, we give you an opportunity to speak without any rebuttal. Would you give us the same respect and let each council member speak their opinion? You don't have to agree. I realize that, but let's keep it the way equal sides of respect here. Thank you very much.
But there are things in this city that the staff, whether it's police, fire, EMS, guys working on the power lines, doing the water and sewer and this, they need the best equipment that we can afford. And, I've seen what the guys do and I've watched them work. I think our police and everybody does a great job here in Fredericksburg. We do have if anybody has any questions about the laws and things like that, we do have a city attorney. He's your city attorney. Go ask him. He does a great job. He's always reliable. He's on top of things. So if you do have a question, your city attorney's sitting right there. Okay, I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you, Jerry. Bobby?
Every year we go through this process. The city staff asks the city council what our priorities are. We talk about those priorities, we vote on them, and that's the direction that the city staff has. This budget is based on those priorities. We've spent months going through each item. We've evaluated it. We've discussed it. We've taken stuff out. We've added stuff. But I'm satisfied the way the budget is right now. I'm not satisfied with the tax rate that was approved, the potential tax rate that was approved earlier. As some of you might not know, I was not in that meeting, so I didn't vote. But I think we can do everything we set out to do this year in the budget with the no new tax rate. And that's going to be my suggestion. But right now we're talking about the budget. I think it's a good budget. Even though, as James has pointed out, our population in the city has not increased dramatically over the last 10 years. A lot of the services that we offer have. We also have to provide services for a population that does not live here. Our town doubles and triples in size over the weekends, and we have to be prepared for that. We have to provide fire and rescue. We have to provide emergency services. We have to provide water, sewer, electricity. Speaking of electricity, I don't know if y'all know that our electric department has 7 employees. 7. When they kept the power on during the ice storm, they went and helped the county because the county needed the help and CTC needed the help. So we do what we do in this town with the fewest number of employees that we can. And we do a damn good job of it. So I'm very comfortable with the budget the way it is. I don't propose that we make any changes to it. No reductions, no increases. I think it's a good budget.
Thank you, Bobby. I pretty well am in line with Mr. Watson there. Even though our population hasn't increased over that much over the 10 years, but when you read the police reports, the EMS reports, the number of calls that they go on to each week, each day is phenomenal. I don't know if anybody's researched 10 years ago, but I would suggest it's probably not that number. I've worked through budgets when I was on the school board, and I've had the honor of working through this budgets, for my 5.5 years I've been on city council. And never once have I felt that we're puffing and fluffing this budget. These things we need to service our community, our citizens of Fredericksburg. I agree with Bobby, our services are adequate. Again, with the electric, with the water, with the sewer, with street. Those are all critical aspects of our community and of our citizens of Fredericksburg we need to provide. As you all know, there's a shortage of workers, not only for the county, the city, the hospital, even in your own businesses. And it's market driven by now with what we're seeing in our area. And we need to keep our personnel, they're trained, they do a great job. The study that we've done, the $250,000 that we're going to try to bring in the market, isn't necessarily, in my opinion, going to get us there. However, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. So I think it's a start. And if the funds are available to increase that, I would certainly be in favor of that. I agree. I think our current no tax rate would be adequate to cover all our expenses for our budget. And it would also give us a relatively healthy, what I call extra fund balance over our 3 months of required fund balance to operate if things went south. And as I understand, we can make amendment of budgets as we go through the year for unexpected surprises. And as I understand, if necessary, we can also dip into our 3-month reserve. If we do that, of course, we have to rebuild it. So I think the budget's a good one, and I would support this budget. And as I mentioned, I'm going to support I don't jump in the head like Bobby did, but that rate will support our budget and give us a really decent fund balance. So that's all I've got to say. So any other council comments? Go ahead, Kathy.
I have a question, and really, I could wait for the next session, but since you brought it up, Mayor, I'll ask. If it turns out that we have to dip into the 3 months required reserve amount, what is the time period in which we have to replenish that account?
You have to replenish it the next year. But again, all the tax rates you're considering this evening result in $1 million over that requirement, so we don't anticipate that happening. But you would have to address it within 1 year.
Within a year? So in other words, that if we went into the reserve fund, it's possible we would have to raise rates the next year in order to replenish it?
It's possible.
Okay, thanks.
And the highest we could go would be the 3.5% as prescribed by the legislature in the tax rate. If we had to replenish a reserve that we went below our requirements.
You could reduce the cost or raise the rate up to the 3.5% cap.
Okay. It's an observation that the Texas legislature made it very easy to reduce tax rates, but made it very difficult to raise them. And I think that was by design. I'm not sure that it's in the best interest of public policy, but that was the policy that was elected, that was decided, approved by our elected officials. So I guess it's time to vote on the budget. Mayor?
Any other comments? Okay.
It was a good talk, Bobby.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Good talk.
Very good.
Good
Okay.
explanation.
We will need to have a motion, and then we'll have a roll call vote.
Is there any particular language we need to use on the budget? Just the tax rate?
Right, there's no specific language for the adoption of the budget. And when I mentioned earlier about having to ratify a vote depending on the tax rate, so you'll do your budget, and then we'll do the tax rate discussion, and then depending on the outcome of the tax rate discussion, I think that will dictate whether the budget is going to be raising more revenue from property taxes or from some other source. And so depending on the rate that's set, if it turns out that it will raise more revenue from property taxes, then we'll have to have that third action to ratify that tax increase as part of the budget. But for right now, for the budget, there's no specific statutory language you need to use to adopt the budget.
Okay.
With that being said, I would like to make a motion to approve the budget as presented.
Second that.
What about
Do what? Oh, and waive the second reading.
I'll second that.
Okay. Have a motion to adopt the budget or approve the budget as presented, to waive the second reading. Roll call vote. Shelley?
Councilmember Lukenbach,
Aye.
Councilmember Watson,
Aye.
Councilmember O'Neill,
Aye.
Councilmember Musselman,
Aye.
Mayor Keeney.
Aye. Okay, moving on now to 9D, consider the approval of ordinance 2021-21, setting the tax levy for the taxable year 2021 and providing an effective date. First of two readings, council may waive the second reading. Laura?
A taxing unit that's authorized to pay both M&O and debt service with property taxes must adopt the tax rate as two separate components. So you'll need to adopt, included in your packet is a sheet called property tax rate scenarios that gives, depending on the tax rate that you adopt, what the M&O, the INS, and the total tax rate would be.
Also included in your packet are 2 ordinances. There's specific ordinances depending on if you adopt the no new revenue tax rate or if you adopt a tax rate that's higher than the no new revenue tax rate. If you adopt a tax rate that exceeds the no new revenue, in your agenda memo is the specific wording that you would have to use to adopt the tax rate.
Thank you, Laura. Kent, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Yep, so Mayor and Council, on page 860 of your agenda packet is the 5 property tax rate scenarios that the council has discussed and over the last month or so. And if you'll recall, the initial action by the council was to set the rate at 0.225823. And with understanding that is the cap, that is the highest that the tax rate can be approved for this year. And so the council set that in understanding that that rate can come down, but it can't go up over 0.225823. And the other 4 scenarios include the current tax rate of 0.220775, and then a couple of lower rates, and then the no new revenue tax rate of 0.1958823. These are the 5 tax rates that the council has kind of talked about over the last part of that as well as the INS rate. So at this point, staff would be glad to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Ken. Kathy?
Okay, we have just approved what I'm calling a deficit budget. In other words, the revenues aren't as great as the expenditures. And one of the reasons we can do that is because the fund balance for this year, 2021, is higher than the 3-month required reserve. So you look at what the deficit amount is and think about what expenditures may not be in the budget, including the salary increase that will likely occur January 1 based upon the salary survey. And we've already discussed that what's in the budget for that is insufficient to make those payments. We're also losing about, I think, $100,000 because of the TABC change in law. And we cannot count the American Rescue Plan funds as part of our budget because it has certain specific stipulations and items that it can pay for. So in general, we can't pay for salaries with it, various other things that we normally spend money on. So looking at the tax rates that we've been reviewing, and then keeping in mind the deficit amount, the lowest tax rate, and I'm in favor of reducing below the current tax rate. The lowest tax rate we can go to and still not break into that fund, that reserve fund, is the rate that is the third one, which is 0.210823. And that would be sufficient to capture the deficit amounts and probably any shortage we'd have in the budget for salaries and other matters that come up that are unexpected, such as, a winter event like we had this year.
Again, folks, let's please be respectful. I mean, if you have an opinion, you certainly are welcome to share that with the council member after the meeting or prior to any of our meetings. I appreciate that. Again, we're always kind and gracious and respectful when y'all are making comments that I can certainly say I don't always agree with, but I don't jump back at you and say that's wrong, or I might shake my head occasionally, but I do respect what you have to say, even if I don't agree with everything. So I appreciate your comments, kept to yourselves. Thank you.
And I would point out that the county did not go with the no new tax rate. The county went with their no new tax rate is 0.3401.
3.5.
Excuse, their
3.5.
no new tax rate is 0.3401. They went with a tax rate of 0.3577, which is higher. The FISD did what?
That's their adopted rate, which is above.
The FISD didn't, I don't think they changed their rate, did they?
It went down,
Or they went down?
still over $1.
Well, they have their reasons for doing that. So with that in mind, I would support a tax rate lower than this year's tax rate. So, which would be the 0.210823. I think it makes most sense for the city. And it gives residents somewhat of a decrease in their rate.
Thank you, Kathy. Tom?
I'd like to ask Mr. Myers to explain or to comment on an email that he sent to the council earlier last week about in support of can the city is it your opinion and Laura's opinion that we can operate on the under the no new revenue tax rate this year? And the question I have, I guess in your email you explained that that the director of finance believed that our sales tax revenues will exceed our budgeted amount by approximately $300,000. Is that
400,000.
400,000?
400,000 this year and 300,000 next year.
So I guess the question that I believe everybody, I understand that taxes and tax rates are it's a very dear subject, and I pay taxes, and everybody up here pays taxes. One thing that I think that we should be mindful of is that the reason we pay taxes is for services that we receive, and we need to always, I think, try to balance, are we getting a good deal for the services? Are we getting good services for the tax money that we pay? I believe in this community, the city of Fredericksburg is a different place than it was 10 years ago when I was mayor. In many ways, that's good. In some ways, some of our citizens think that it's not so good. But change happens all the time. So I would like everybody to realize that when we adopt a tax rate, if we adopt the no new revenue tax rate and things turn south and it comes time to, okay, we're going to have to make some cuts. Okay, where are we going to cut? In the past, the first place that the city of Fredericksburg looked when I was on council before and mayor, the first place, the easiest place to cut was we'll just take it out of the Parks Department. I think those days are probably over. I think that there would be probably a request that every department, including emergency services, including police, which I would hate to see that have to happen, are going to have to share in that. You know, I guess the sunny side of this thing might be that our curve might still be going up. It's been doing this in Fredericksburg for 20+ years now. And that's unusual. Okay, we had a dip in 2008 with the housing crisis, but it's been going full gun, and I'm reluctant. I'm reluctant to go with the no new revenue tax rate, but if the city manager and the director of finance say that we have sufficient funds to do that, then I think we should. The issue of doubling our budgets and things, I think there's a lot of hyperbolic talk going on about, oh, look, our spending's gone up. Has a lot of talk about how spending's increased. How much of the budget, Kent, is from money we have in reserves, and how much of this is bond money that wasn't spent. We wouldn't be talking about this if all the sewer water projects had been done last year. It'd be out of this budget and wouldn't even be in this. But we're carrying it forward because they're not finished, and we're carrying it forward with money that we had pledged for those projects. So I think we have a good budget, and I hope that we continue to be as popular as we have been in the past.
Thanks, Tom. Bobby?
I believe I've stated that I'm in favor of the no new revenue tax rate and stick to that.
Thank you. Jerry?
Well, when you look at the sales taxes, the way the sales taxes are coming up and everything like this, I've been talking with Laura and David and Kent, and with the sales taxes coming up, and when you look at the hot taxes, the hot taxes were like 4.2 million. Well, what's 4.2 million? Where that's up 2.2%. And I know Laura has concerns about the salaries and things like this and the budget, but talking with Ken, he feels like that everything it will work out, that if we have to cut, we end up cutting the parks. And you look at the park out there, and people, we want to put in some new restrooms out there, and people say, well, don't do the new restrooms. Well, the park brought in, what was it, 620,000 for the camping in that. I think it's like 620,000 on camping. So, I mean, if you get nice stuff, then the people want to stay there, and they'll want to come back and stay there. Do you want to call for the vote?
Not yet. I get a chance, don't I?
Oh, Charlie.
Thank you. I already stated my case, and I'll be fair and honest with you guys. I looked at our surplus funds over the 3 months, and I would share with you, I was a few meetings ago, I thought we would be under $1 million. And if that had been the case, I would not have supported the no tax rate revenue rate. I would have suggested something to bump us over that $1 million. But with that being said, with the no new revenue rate, we're going to have, if this is still correct, $1.2 million roughly in what I call extra fund balance over 3 months. Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. And I agree with a lot of comments that are made, tax rates, percentages, etc. At best, they're confusing. I think what's important for council and for other taxing entities, it's how it affects every individual's pocketbook. You can crunch numbers and make them sing and sound everything you want, but when you get your tax bill, you understand you're paying $1 more or $1 less. So I'm gonna be, certainly in favor of the no new tax rate, in that regard.
Mayor, let me clarify one thing, because there may be some people standing up or that are tuned in the meeting tonight that don't understand that no matter what rate the council adopts, their taxes may still go up. And that is because your taxes that you actually pay are based upon your values and the actual rate that the city and county and school district set. So if your values, for example, and Scott Fair, our head of our appraisal districts in the audience, and he'll tell you if your values on your property went up, say 25% this year, then more than likely your tax bill will be going up, no matter what rate the city council sets. So I want to make sure everybody understands that. So when you do get your tax bill, you understand that it's not just the rate, it's the values. And I think you probably read in the paper a couple of months ago, values have gone up all across the city and the county. So I just want to clarify that, Mayor, because I think people get confused about that. They think that the rate, that if the council keeps the rate where it is or go with no new revenue, then their taxes will actually go down, and that is not necessarily the case.
Okay, good explanation. That's always confusing for sure. Okay, with that,
Could I make one more
please,
comment?
please do, Bobby.
Just so everybody knows, and this, we'll be talking about this next year as well, but when we're working through the budget and when we get to the tax rate, we typically always pick a higher tax rate as our first tax rate. That's in case there's any changes to the budget during the last few weeks that we're discussing it. We'll have the money to cover those changes. But we very seldom, this is my 7th budget, and we've never gone, that I remember, we've never gone with that higher rate. So it's a rate we set. It's not the rate that we go with typically. So I just wanted to clarify that.
I'd like to echo
Please.
Councilman Watson's comment. I've worked on 10 budgets, and the proposed rate has never been the adopted rate. And it was never intended to be the adopted rate.
Thank you. Any other comments? With that-
Mayor, while the council's considering the motion to make, there's a few sort of technical requirements on this motion. So the council needs to separately approve your M&O component of the rate and your debt service or interest and sinking component. So the motion, whatever it ends up being, needs to state the M&O rate and the debt service rate and then your total rate. Secondly, if the if the adopted tax rate is going to exceed the no new revenue rate, then the form of your motion needs to be exactly as it's worded in the agenda memo that was provided by the finance director. And again, we will do a record vote on this item. And finally, this is the first reading, so if the council wants to take action tonight, remember to waive the second reading.
Well, as a mayor, I can't make a motion, but I can second it.
Do you have to, you set the M&O first and then the tax rate, or do you set the tax rate then the M&O?
I think you could do a motion saying, I'll make a motion to approve an M&O rate of this and a debt service rate of this for a total tax rate of this.
So you could use the formula that we have on page 61, Laura? Is that, you've got that lined up there for the no new revenue tax rate, is that correct?
Oh, okay.
That's
The ordinance for the no new revenue tax rate has those amounts. in it.
okay.
Okay.
That's agenda packet page 61.
Okay, 61.
All right. I'd like to make a motion that we set a rate of 0.168029 for the purposes of maintenance operations. A rate of 0.027794 for the principal and interest on debt of the city, for a total of 0.195823 as the taxable property in the city, which is the no new tax rate.
I'll second that.
We have a motion by, Bobby and a second by Jerry. Any further discussion?
Do you want to waive the second reading?
And waive the second reading.
Okay, question I have is, Mr. Jones, does that satisfy the language that we need for this motion?
It does. The statutory requirements are only in effect if you adopt a rate that exceeds the no new revenue rate. So if you're going to adopt a rate that is the no new revenue rate, there's no special form for the motion that's required.
Any other questions, Council?
Call for a vote.
Roll call, Shelley?
Councilmember Watson,
Aye.
Councilmember O'Neill,
No.
Councilmember Lukenbach,
Aye.
Councilmember Musselman,
Aye.
Mayor Keeney.
Aye. Motion carries 4-1. Thank you.
Mayor, I believe. Mayor, Laura will have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's the first time that our tax rate has been below 0.20 in the history of the city. Is that right, Laura?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right. Moving on to 9E. Consider the approval of ordinance 21-22, amending the Article 24.000 of Appendix A, fee schedule of the Code of Ordinances to update and amend the use fees of the pool party use of Lady Bird Johnson Park Pool and Coach Tony Canuck Town Pool, used for recreational vehicle service system dump at Lady Bird Johnson Municipal Park, and the use of the open air pavilions at Lady Bird Johnson Municipal Park. First of two readings, the council may waive the second reading.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Caitlin Brazel, Recreation Superintendent.
Could you say the name again, please?
Caitlin Brazel.
There you go. Put that up a little bit. Thank you, Caitlin.
There you go. I'll try to keep this brief after a long meeting, but the Parks Department staff wishes to update and amend the following use fees. Increase the fee for the use of our RV sewer system dump station at the Lady Bird Municipal Park from $5 to $10. Increase the use fees of the 5 open air pavilions at Lady Bird Municipal Park. And lastly, simplify the current system and adjust the minimum rate for 2-hour private pool parties at Park Pool and Town Pool. We will continue to not guarantee pool party availability and are not able to offer parties in the month of May due to lifeguard availability. Research of the fee comparisons were conducted with other cities, counties, and local RV parks, and our fees showed to be lower than these other 3 areas. The Parks Department wished to consider a motion to adopt the new park fees to go into effect October 1st of 2021 as part of the new fiscal year. I would be happy to answer any questions regarding these.
Thank you, Caitlin. Jerry, question?
No.
Bobby?
No questions.
Tom?
No questions.
Kathy?
No
I'm sorry.
questions.
I was getting there. And these fees keep us more in line in what's going on in the industry.
Absolutely. I just did surveys in the industry just to get us compatible, not super high, just in the middle.
Okay, good. Thank you very much, Caitlin.
Thank you, guys.
Mayor, I make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-22, amending Article 2400 of Appendix A, fee schedule of the Code Ordinances to update and amend the use fees for pool party use at Lady Bird Johnson Park Pool and Town Pool, the use of recreational vehicle sewer system dump at Lady Bird Johnson Municipal Park, and the use of open air pavilions at Lady Bird Johnson Municipal Park. And I ask that we waive the second reading.
Okay, I have a motion by Tom. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Bobby. Any further discussion? Being none,
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just want to clarify for the record, in the agenda packet, looks like the pages got mixed up a little bit, and so
71.
the ordinance is on page 76 of the agenda packet. And it's identified as ordinance 2021-24, even though the agenda identifies it as
21, okay.
as 2021-22. So
I would,
I don't know that we
You
have,
want to withdraw your motion?
I don't know that either of those numbers are, I don't know, Shelley, do you know which, if we have another 22 or another 24? I just want to make sure that,
okay, then I would amend my motion to clarify that as ordinance number 2021-24.
on page 76
On
of the
page,
agenda.
page 76 of the packet.
I'll second that.
Okay. Motion by Tom to amend, second by Bobby to include that. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Going to F, consider approval of the ordinance 2021-24, amending Article 11.702, electric rates of Appendix A, fee schedule of the Court of Ordinance to update and amend the fees for the electrical service provided by the city. First of two readings, City Council may waive second. Laura?
Mayor and council, the attached ordinance includes a 3% increase in the electric utility rates that were discussed during the fiscal year 2022 budget process. Staff recommends that city council approve the attached ordinance establishing a 3% increase in the electric utility rates effective October 1, 2021.
Okay, thank you. Ken, anything to add? If not, Jerry, any comments?
No.
Bobby?
No.
Tom?
I would remind everyone that the entire city of Fredericksburg Electric Department is 7 people. And they maintain an outstanding level of service. Our rates as a city have been historically low because of good management. And I think the rates are, we haven't had a rate increase since 2015. I think that very few things have not increased since 2015.
Mayor, one thing I wanted to remind the council, you did also authorize a rate study this year that's in the budget so that we could look at electric rates in more detail. And so keep that in mind. And does you have any questions?
Thanks, Ken. Kathy, any comments?
I'm going to support this. I would prefer to see a graduated rate increase. For example, maybe a 2-step. If you use fewer than 500 kilowatt hours, then you pay one lower rate and you pay a higher rate as it goes up to discourage usage, as we've done with the water. But I would support this.
Thank you, Kathy. I have no comment or consideration there. Any other comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Mayor, I got to clarify again for the
Please
record
do.
because they got mixed up. So this one's going to be ordinance 2021-22. It's on page 67 of your agenda packet. It was misidentified as 2021-24 on the agenda. What happened is that the city secretary has told me that items 9A and 9E and 9F were moved around at some point, and so the numbers just got mixed up. So I would recommend that the motion identify it as ordinance number 22 as set forth in agenda packet page 67.
Thank you.
And waive the second reading if you want to adopt it tonight.
Daniel, it says on page 67 that the ordinance number is 2021-23. So 22, okay.
All right, we need to amend that. We need to amend that to 22.
So it should be 22.
Okay.
I'll move to approve as almost presented, ordinance number 2021-23 22. And as shown on page 67 of the agenda. And waive the second reading.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion by Bobby. Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Tom. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Okay. Consider approval of resolution, is this one right? Okay, good. Resolution, thank you for all those corrections. We want to make it right. Consider the approval of resolution 2021-10R authorizing the removal of delinquent personal property accounts from the tax roll. Kent?
Mayor, we've got Scott Fair from the appraisal district here, and he's taking the podium, so we'll let him explain what the resolution involves.
Hi, Scott.
Good evening.
You're a great guy. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Please, go ahead.
A quick section out of the property tax code. If there's no pending litigation concerning the delinquent tax at the time of cancellation and removal, the collector for a tax unit shall cancel and remove from the delinquent tax roll, 1, a tax on real property that has been delinquent for more than 20 years, or 2, a tax on personal property that has been delinquent for more than 10 years. We took over tax collections in 2015. We've had an uphill battle on some things, and we're getting to a couple of sections of the code book we should have been at a few years ago. I had the office prepare a list of delinquent taxes that meet these qualifications for age. I have had numerous conversations with the delinquent tax attorney, Crystal Shesso. She has declared that these are not, she cannot go after them. There is no pending litigation. There's a myriad of reasons why there's not pending litigation or she has not been able to collect the taxes. But we have this list, and I've supplied a list that is 88 accounts in length. 82 of those are personal property. 6 of them are real property. I believe none of the 6 are the real property are located in Fredericksburg, so we're just talking about the 82 personal property accounts. So this is, I'm here tonight for transparency and for support, for a blessing, to do what the tax code tells me to do. And so I prepared the list, or had the list prepared and given it to you, breakdown, and as well as a sample resolution. And I'm here for any questions.
Tom?
So Scott, these people that are in here, they owe the city of Fredericksburg taxes on personal property?
Yes, sir.
They owe, I would assume that they owe Gillespie County taxes on personal property, and they owe the Fredericksburg Independent School District taxes on personal property. And so if we approve this tonight, we're saying it's okay? Are we telling them they don't have to pay these?
The code book tells me they don't have to pay
Okay,
these.
the code tells them, and as a, I guess as a community, I look through this and I go, geez, I know this guy. Has anybody, I mean, have we contacted them? Has anybody picked up a phone and said, hey, Tom,
Pay your bill.
you owe $4,278 since 1995, 96, or you really want to pay up? Or is this they're never going to pay, so we need to, we don't need to try to collect it because they haven't paid it in 10 years and we're wasting our time and we could use that time to do something else?
We have attempted to contact them. We attempt to contact them annually with a delinquent tax notice. The delinquent tax attorney has attempted to contact them. And when I say there's a myriad of reasons, the myriad of reasons typically are that there's been a bankruptcy and we're not in line to get any money. Then the judge cleared it. We just still have it on our side. There are ones where service was never made in the suit because the people couldn't be found. They left the state, they left the country, they're gone. So they could not proceed with the suit. I'm not a lawyer. Mr. Jones could probably answer some of these better than I could, even though he's not a delinquent tax attorney. But I have had multiple conversations with the delinquent tax attorney, and she has gone through these and said, this one is for this reason, this one is for this reason. But it is, typically, it has gone to the suit level or attempted the suit level, and at this point, it's beyond. We're not going to get the money.
Okay.
The tax code tells me that if it's to this point, we should consider it paid and remove it. But if the people show up next week and want to pay it, we'll take the money and put it on that, for that account.
So am I correct in guessing reading, we're looking at $58,903 approximately?
No. $4,685.
Oh. I'm on page 94, what are you on? Well.
That's the city of.
City of Fredericksburg
Oh,
is
that's
$4,685.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying, of all the taxing entities. So we're saying that that these people owe the taxing entities, FISD, I guess the water control district's probably in there too. A total of about $58,000 that they're just gonna walk away from.
Almost 59,000 in personal property,
Okay.
65 or almost 66 total.
Okay, I understand the concept that, I think that it's probably, will waste time trying to collect. What I would like to do is, I would like to have a link put on the city website with delinquent taxes, that are owed to the city of Fredericksburg, the $4,685.68, whatever is owed to the city of Fredericksburg. I'd like the public to know, okay, here are the people that are done in the city. You know, wouldn't take that long. That's not an appraisal district thing, but it's a IT thing. You know, my philosophy has been, you get services for the money that you pay, and if you get services and you don't pay your taxes, in government that's called a free rider. And I kind of resent people that get the service and don't pay for the service. So that's not up to you. That would be up to, I guess, the rest of the city council and the city.
Yeah,
manager.
and again, Councilman Musselman, part of the reason Scott's here tonight is to make this completely transparent. And Daniel, do you have any problem posting this information on the city website?
Well, I'd have to check that first.
Okay.
So essentially what this does, it creates a statute of limitations. We just can't file suit, we can't seize property if there's a lien. So it's not that the debt doesn't exist, but our ability to exercise any remedies to collect it is barred by statute at this point. So
I understand.
I can't answer that question on posting it until I can do some research.
But the fact is, the names are listed in the agenda, so that is public record, so it's already on the website.
Right. If I may make one comment to Councilman Musselman, our website might not be the easiest to get to, but there is a page that has data on it. And one of the pieces of data that is updated each month is the delinquent tax roll.
Okay.
And just to prepare you, depending on the month, the time of year, it's between about 650 and 900 pages long.
Right.
Delinquent.
Well, and you'll see on the list, it includes a former city employee and a current school board member. So those of you that know those individuals and want to call them and suggest they pay their taxes, I think that's okay.
Yeah.
George, that's you.
You know, Crystal Shessel is the person that pursues these, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and I know my experience from the school board, you give her that bone, she'll chew on it. And I would suggest if she's recommended this, which I'm sure she probably has, I think it's probably good business just to, I hate to say it, bad debt's bad debt, and move on because of all the circumstances you couldn't elude to because there's too many of them.
Mm-hmm.
But with your legal advice that you've received, I think this is an appropriate adjustment. And thank God we're not the school district.
Yep.
At $49,000.
Well, I guess if the school district collected their $49,000, they probably have to give 35% of it to the state of Texas
Probably.
for Robin Hood.
Well, we just need to make sure that doesn't keep going forward.
Right.
That we take care of it before it gets to this
I
far
think
down
that
the road.
I think that it's well worth noting that if you look at the city of Fredericksburg, taxes are due in January, right? And we are close to 95+% collections usually by May. So the people in this community, a vast majority of them do pay their taxes. And don't we, would you say that these are mostly business, personal property taxes? Are those
For
the
the
only
city,
personal
yes.
property taxes that are collected now? Are business personal property taxes?
Sorry, sir.
Are the only personal property taxes collected by the state now business personal property? It's not, because I used to pay personal property on vehicles.
In Gillespie County, that is correct.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Kathy, any comments?
Yeah.
Okay. Any further comments, council? If not, I'll entertain a motion to, consider.
I'll move to approve resolution 2021-10R as presented.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Bobby and a second by Tom. Any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Thanks, Scott. And
Thank you, Scott. Appreciate it.
My thanks to the appraisal district. You guys are doing a great job under trying circumstances from those above us.
Y'all have a good
And I want to compliment your staff because the time I go in there, old Ding Dong Charlie just walked in and they're very helpful. Thank you. So let them know that.
Yes, sir.
They don't call me that, but I know that's what they're thinking.
They do behind your back.
Okay, well, I know those ladies all. Okay, 10A, consider the approval of voluntary annexation agreement for approximately 10.839 acres of land to construct single-family subdivision of Stone Ridge Unit 11. Jason?
Turn on my mic. Yes, thank you, Mayor Council. Relatively simple annexation agreement here before you tonight. The owner is looking at moving forward with moving ahead with Phase 11. This was approved on their preliminary plat many years ago. So this is the next step in that process, is getting that into the city. So the first step was the annexation agreement, and then we'll be coming back at a later date with the proposed zoning of residential for that tract. So I can answer any more questions if you have any at this time.
Thank you. Any questions, council? Jerry?
No.
How much more land do they got out there at Stone Ridge to?
Outside of this tract, I don't know, I think it's another 20 acres. If you look on this map here,
Yeah.
if you follow my cross triangle right there, it comes out to Canasey Road and then back up. So it's this last little section here. I believe they own some out further out, but I don't know that that was subject of our original development agreement.
Oh, I don't have a problem.
Bobby?
Nope.
Questions?
Nope.
Yeah.
Oh.
I do want to do full disclosure. I do represent them, the developer in real estate transactions. Would that keep me from having any vote in this?
We talked about this earlier, but
Wait, those are on.
I would recuse yourself.
Okay, that's what I'll do. Thank you.
Yeah,
With that
yeah.
being said, okay, we'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve the annexation of the voluntary annexation agreement of approximately 10.839 acres of land to construct a single-family subdivision of Stone Ridge Unit 11.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Tom and a second by Kathy. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. I
Mayor
recuse
abstains.
myself. Okay, thank you.
Mayor abstains.
No, I didn't.
Nope.
You did?
Accused.
You just didn't vote.
Okay, let's move on to section 11, STR, city manager report, STR regulations.
Hey, Mayor and council members, thanks to all of you for joining us last Monday at the University Center. We had a good turnout of citizens for the work session on short-term rentals. We heard a lot of good comments, I think, from the public on both sides of this issue. So we're gonna remind the council that you agreed to have another work session on Monday, October 11th, 3 weeks from tonight. And that, in talking to the mayor this morning, he suggested we have that at the University Center also. So I did just get confirmation from the University Center that HEB room is available for that meeting. Just wanted to remind the council, if you need any specific information from staff for that meeting, please let us know as soon as possible. We're working on a couple of things right now that we've talked to council about. One that Councilmember O'Neill requested, and that is the actual numbers of STRs in R1 and R2 areas. We'll have that number available for the October 11th work session. We also will have the proposed standards for evaluating conditional use permits. We talked about that quite a bit, and staff will have those proposed standards for your review. We also are looking at other cities that have adopted both the conditional use permit standards and have also capped the number of STRs. We're looking at those cities' ordinances and talking to some of those cities about their experiences. This week, we have a conference call with several cities, including representatives from Port Aransas, Galveston, and other cities that are actively involved in STRs. And so we hope to get some information on how they are doing with their regulation of STRs. So basically, we're just getting ready for the meeting on October 11th. And again, let me or Jason or Daniel know if you need anything else for that meeting. The sooner you can let us know, the better, in case it takes a while to research your questions. So that's all I have on that item, unless the council has any questions or comments. Okay, if not, we'll move to the second item under the city manager's report. I did not give a report on COVID at the last council meeting, so Justin Calhoun updated me, provided some updated information this afternoon. Currently in Gillespie County, we have 118 active cases, and that includes 5 individuals that are hospitalized at Hill Country Memorial. So 5 cases over there right now. That has fluctuated over the last couple of weeks from 12 down to 5. So right now it's at the low level there, 5 hospitalizations. Of the Gillespie County active cases, I wanted to mention of the 818, at least 2 of those involve city employees at City Hall. So we do have a couple of positive cases involving some employees that we're dealing with right now. We also have the Hill Country Memorial has a 7-day positivity rate of about 18%. And the mayor has requested, anytime we say percentages, we need to say numbers, right, Charlie? So, yeah, so of the 18%, that includes 298 people that were tested in the last 7 days, 298 tested with 54 positive cases. And the positivity rate is down from last week. Last week is 22.5%, and now it's up to down to 18.14. So hopefully that trend will continue. The numbers at the school district are also down. According to the numbers from the school district today, they had 10, 20, 30 total cases involving students at the various campuses. We have had 14,647 residents of Gillespie County that have received at least 1 dose of the vaccine, and 12,787 that are fully vaccinated. So those are the numbers as of today. I want to remind the council and the public that vaccination sites are included throughout the county, including Walmart, HEB, Walgreens, and Value Med. So anybody that has not gotten a vaccine, they want to, there's at least 4 sites available. That's all I have, council members, unless you have any questions on that item.
Kathy, I think you had a concern or question?
Oh, I was just going to say that 298 that were tested, that's not the total number tested in the city.
No, that is, I'm glad you asked that question. That is just the number that were tested at the hospital and their clinics that report that information. Now, the city also does their own testing. not near as much as what the hospital does. We tested 82 people in the last 7 days, and of those 82, we had 8 positive cases. So our positive rate was quite a bit lower. Our positivity rate was 9.76% as far as what our fire EMS tested. So 8 positive out of 82 tested. So again, that number's going down, so hopefully those trends will continue.
Any other questions on that? If not, housing coordinator.
Okay, third item to report on this evening, I'm pleased to report this evening that our commitments to the housing coordinator position have increased over the last couple of weeks through the efforts of the members of that committee involving the city and the chamber and EDC. And we got word today that our total pledges from the private sector have now increased over what we've asked the city and county. If you'll recall, we were trying to do this 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. The county has pledged 25,000 for that position. The city has pledged 25,000, a total of 50,000. And we have total commitments from the private sector of 53,000. So we're up to a total of $103,000 for that position. So that does meet the budget. And so with that in mind, the committee has started putting out the word to individuals who may be interested in that position. And Tim Lindbergh is accepting applications at EDC. And again, remind the council that is a 1-year contract position and with the offices provided by the Chamber of Commerce. Bobby, do you or Kathy want to add anything to that report?
I'd just like to make a comment, as stated previously in public comment, that it was stated that affordable housing coordinator has been hired, and that is not true. We've just been raising money, and we are just now starting to advertise for that position, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
This is not a city employee, correct?
It's not a what?
Not a city employee?
Not a city employee, no.
Okay. I think there was some confusion on that as well.
And I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Gillespie County for agreeing to help out with that position. And there was a lot of discussion by the county, so it would be remiss if we didn't show our appreciation for the county.
Yeah.
I agree, Ken, and I want to thank the community because my comment has always been, this is a community effort and a community problem, and it should never have been funded entirely by the city and or the county. So I applaud the private industry coming up with that amount of money, but I would ask, like Jerry would always ask, for more money. So they're still out there. Go ahead and keep contributing to this worthwhile project. Thank you.
And Mayor, just one other thing, the committee would like some of the contributors from the private sector to be involved in the hiring process for that individual, particularly the larger contributions, which include the hospital.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to American Rescue Plans Funds. I think
Okay,
there's
yes, very
still
quickly.
confusion there at that too, Ken.
Okay, so very quickly, the city will receive a little over $2.8 million over the next, we've already received the first check. Half of that 1.4, the other check we'll receive next summer. And so total of $2.8 million. We, in the budget you've just approved, we have 3 uses of that money: broadband services, purchase of generators for the water sites, and some funding for the municipal court to catch up on their backlog of cases. All those are eligible uses for the federal funding. That in the budget, that left $857,000 in unallocated funds. And the council has agreed to open that up to nonprofit organizations who may want to apply for that money. Laura and her staff are working on a request for proposals for organizations to apply for that money. We will have that RFP on the council, on the next council agenda. We want y'all to approve that, the wording in that, before we send it out and advertise it to local nonprofits. So that is where we are on American Rescue Plan Funds. Any questions on that? Okay. That's it, Mayor.
Sorry, future agenda items?
Okay, Mayor and Council, on page 113 of your packet is a listing of items for the October 4th council meeting, 2 weeks from tonight. And I will, you can see one of the items is the American Rescue Plan, the request for nonprofit agencies. We also have on there a request from the appraisal district for the city to cast your votes, the council to cast your votes for the members of the board of directors of the appraisal district. We will have a presentation and ask the council to approve a global settlement for opioids. Yeah, I have trouble with that word every time. An animal control presentation at the next council meeting. And then two other items you might want to note that we're looking at bringing before the council. One is a new recycling agreement with our provider that purchases our recycling items to add cardboard, add newspaper and add plastic. So we will be bringing that agreement to the council. And then the contract for our parking consultant to get started on the work for the parking study. So those are two new items that we're looking at bringing to your next council meeting. We also will have a couple of executive session items. One is to update the council on the easement, 290 East water line easement, and then also the 290 East annexation. So that's what we have for the next council meeting. And then the October 18th meeting, we've got a number of items coming through Planning and Zoning Commission for the October 18th meeting. You can see those listed on page 114. Questions, comments? That's all I got there.
That's good. You're keeping us busy. Okay. Council comments. Jerry, I'll start with you.
Okay.
Since you're on the right.
We had the Marketplace redevelopment meet this morning. We are getting real close to getting the money to take care of the $250,000 matching grant, but we're getting real close on money to take care of the Security State Bank drive-in, and also we're working on the pavers, the playground. There's a few little problems that the installers had there, so we're trying to work it out with them. But hopefully we can get this thing. I would like to see it open from Oktoberfest so the kids can play there. If anybody's interested, we still take applications, or what do you want, donations, and I have the forms out there since we have lower taxes now. Anyway, oh yeah, and well, I think I said it last time, the $250,000 matching grant was by the anonymous donor, and with the passing of John Klein, they went ahead and upped it to well, right before he passed, he did get the word that they were doing this for him, and they added another $130,000 to it. So that was $380,000 there, which is really super. John did a lot of work in this, in city of Fredericksburg, and he was on top of the whole market plots and Pioneer Museum and anything that he could do. He was, they said that night, his brother said that Monday night after Market Plots redevelopment meeting, he was with him, and he said he got 2 phone calls for him to take care of business. Well, he passed away on Tuesday, so the guy, he worked up until the last minute. But anyway, he did a super job for the city of Fredericksburg and supported it. Well, I listened to the county commissioners meeting, and online it's easier to understand them. They don't have a mic system in that place over there, and it's real hard to understand them. It's just, it's unbelievable. You can hear them online better. But what the things that they did approve on the budgets, they're having a special election that's coming up hopefully in May, but they had to increase the budget for that. It's like they were saying that they have these mandates come in, but there's no funding for them. They approved, let's see, the hot taxes were $4,225,000, which is up 2.2%. The city's portion of that is $3,595,785, and the county's part is $628,500. So you can tell by just that the CVB and the city, with the improvements that we do, if you keep the city of Fredericksburg nice, you're going to get people to come back and want to be in Fredericksburg. And what we spend on this stuff, it all comes back to us. Usually double. Bobby, I'll let him talk in the airport. They had that. They're putting AEDs in their constable cars. They're closing some dates for the holidays and Oktoberfest and that down at Pioneer Museum. They did talk about the municipal judge came to the county and was asking to use the courtroom. She said with some of being opening up where more of the meetings are open to the public, and they were asking if they could use the upper courtroom, and what they would need is, I think it's the third and fourth Tuesday of the month, like 2 or 3 times that they would need to use the courtroom, and they're seeing what they can do. They've been working with Nevins and the other judge that comes here to town, and they were thinking what the municipal judge, what's her first name? Shelley. She was asking for a 2 to 3 year contract. Well, they didn't want to get tied up in a 2 year, 3 contract. But anyway, they were saying they might have to charge the city for cleaning and sanitation. So anyway, they didn't want to do that long a contract, so they took no action on it. So we'll just have to see what they come up with that. And Heath? Yeah, thanks for thinking about my immune system. I got my booster here last week. And
Mine
I
too,
feel-
thanks, Heath.
Huh?
He talked about mine tonight.
I got mine last week, so I'm doing fine, Heath. My immune system's good. You talk about spending money, and how much money is being spent on the unvaccinated? The shots are free. 95 to 97% of the hospitalized are unvaccinated. Free shots are tens of thousands of dollars in hospitalization. Funeral homes love it. 650,000 dead. And furthermore, when I wear a mask, the reason I wear a mask is that I'm not comfortable with my surroundings or the situations that come up when people are just too many right there. So I do wear a mask. And if we have to do it outside, I don't mind having it outside with the door open. Anyway, and what I do, I'm going to do what I feel is right. Kids are more vulnerable with this virus, and I think people need to step up and be adults and get the shot. It's been proven to be safe, and I think they need to get their shots and show the kids and set an example for our kids. Okay, I'll leave it at that.
Bobby, your turn.
Real quick, had met with the airport board today. T hangars are still 100% and 30 people on the wait list. And it's been like that for years, so it continues. They will sell 500,000 gallons of aviation fuel this year, which is a record. And as a person in charge of the FBO says, they're very, very busy. So.
Oh. Well, there was one other thing out at the airport I think people might be interested in. On October the 9th, that Experimental Aircraft Association chapter, every year they hold this airport day. And they're going to have flyovers, and they're going to have little tours or with kids of that, I can't remember. But it's on October the 9th out at the airport hangar, and it's going to be from 10 to 2.
Also, if you want to mark your calendars, for December the 21st is the Santa fly-in. Santa will be between 1 and 3 out at the airport.
In his sleigh?
In a plane?
In a plane.
Thank you. Tom?
For those people who were vaccinated with the Moderna vaccine and are interested in a booster, the ValueMed Pharmacy on North Llano has the Moderna boosters, and I believe they are giving those on Thursdays and Fridays.
Thank you, Tom. Kathy?
For several weeks now, some of you have been really interested in turning this into a business sanctuary city. Seems an odd thing to ask, but last year during COVID, in the beginning especially, we were under a pretty serious pandemic situation, and a lot of businesses closed because they couldn't, people, when they went there, couldn't distance one from each other, and we didn't have a vaccine at that time. Fortunately, now we do have a vaccine, and we don't need a sanctuary business city. What we need in order to keep businesses open is for all of us to care about each other and become vaccinated. The more people who are vaccinated, the less the virus can morph itself into more serious forms. And then, once we're vaccinated, if we're indoors in a business, we can also keep businesses open by wearing a mask. So you solve your own desire by taking care of each other. Get a vaccine, wear a mask when necessary. And the city council doesn't have to do a thing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kathy. I had the privilege and honor of last week, Thursday, going to the VFW hall to watch and listen to the PO Prisoners of War Missing in Action. They had a gentleman there named Ken Cordier, who had been in the Hino Hilton for 6.5 years. He expressed some of the torture and mental anguish that he went through, but he didn't really dwell on that so much as he dwelled on the word hope and trust. He says as prisoners, they always hoped they could trust the government of the United States to come get them. That's all I can say because it was overwhelming. Thank you. Okay, with that, council comments, we'll get ready to go into executive session. We'll recess an open meeting and reconvene an executive session pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.072 for deliberation regarding real property. Consider and discuss the purchase and exchange, lease, or value of real property located in the vicinity of the intersection of South Adams Street and San Antonio Street in the city of Fredericksburg, Texas, Section 55072. I'll entertain a motion to go into executive session.
I move we go from regular into executive session.
Second.
I have a motion by Jerry and a second by Bobby. All those in favor?
Aye.
And we'll take just a We're back in regular session. Okay, you're gonna miss the big motion here.
Move to adjourn.
I have a motion by Bobby and a second by Jerry. All those, any further discussion? There being none, all those in favor? Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you, boys and girls. T-shirt.